So I want you to imagine your dream self. And that dream self would be somebody who's very, very professional, somebody who meets their goals, somebody who's really reliable, somebody who's on top of their life. But then at the same time, when you get out there at nighttime to that party, that bar, that club, that social gathering, or maybe it could even be in the daytime, you are the life of the party, you go crazy, you're having fun, you're cracking jokes, you're letting go, you are just on fire, right? I bet you right now, even as I say this, you're already recognizing the challenge of this, because you know that whenever you're working really, really hard, when you get out at nighttime into a social gathering, you feel very stifled. It's almost like all day you've been trying to get to that next goal, the next goal, the next goal, the next goal. And suddenly you get out to the party where, to be honest, there is no goal. The goal is just to be silly, to have fun. And you almost start walking up to people and you're like, hello, yes, what is your name? Let's get to the point of some kind of transaction between you and I, whether romantic or professional, right? And people are so weirded out by that. It really just makes you look like you're in some kind of coping, like you're not on top of your life enough to where you have to overwork yourself and you don't know how to have fun, right? But at the same time, I've also had it all through my career where maybe I'll go to Greece and I'm partying in the Greek islands, or I'm partying in the Hollywood Hills, or Miami South Beach, or Italy, or South America, wherever it is, and I'm having such a great time, and I get back to work and I can't even concentrate. Frankly, I feel so good because I've had such an amazing time socially. Maybe my dating life's been off the chains, I've been having way too much fun, and I start to feel as though as long as I just keep partying and having fun, everything in my life will somehow magically be fine. It's all gonna work out if I just keep partying. I see this a lot because many of my best friends in Hollywood, I live in Hollywood, they have major problems with this, where like they're getting invited to the best parties in the Hollywood scene, but they're flat broke. And then I have other friends that are really, really crushing it, but they really struggle in their social life because they're just too conservative. So what I want to do in this video is talk to you not about how to become more professional and not about how to become a bigger partier, but rather I want to talk to you about the underlying reality or underlying psychology that kind of can entrench you in either one. And I want to take you really deep here because I'm gonna give you something that honestly, I think you'd struggle to get almost anywhere else. I mean, some self-help stuff I do, you could find Tony Robbins books about it, or Stephen Covey books about it, or all these amazing books about it. But this is something that I think is very, very unique to my experience because in all the years that I've taught, I'm just working in the day, I'm working so hard, and I get out there at night, maybe I take someone to work on their social skills, and they're like, okay, I've been waiting for years to see how you socialize, let's go! And I'm like, I'm trapped, like I'm trapped in my mind where it's really, really hard for me to have fun. And so the hard thing for me over all these years, it hasn't been being more professional, and it hasn't been to being like this hard partier, well, sober, by the way, I do this 100% sober, but like this crazy raging partier. The hard part for me has been learning to almost have this train track of professionalism and then go clink and switch into fun mode. Clink, back into professional mode, clink, back into fun mode. And what I want to do is I want to talk to you right here in this video about how you don't have to just be this boring professional person that everyone thinks sucks, even though you make money and you do well professionally, and you don't have to be some crazy partier who runs your life in the dirt. What I want to show you here is the underlying psychology behind both ways of thinking and both ways of being, and then how to switch from one side to the other and get the best of both worlds.
This is for the headsets, loving the mix. My people in the front, oh, covered in spit. Batters in the box, suffer the pitch. Hilltop hoods, oh, up in this bitch. And we the punk leaders, punks you can't beat us. We bump and pump meters, we drunk, you chumps need us. So jump with us, down the front if it's your flavor, come get drunk with us. This life turned out nothing like I had planned. Why not? By now I should have had some land, some money in my hand, round about 50 grand, but I got nothing. I write rhymes on the bus, I keep suffering. Fuck the lines of the dust, you keep sniffing. That shit is for the punkos, this shit is for my bros, my people in the front row.
Looked around, the faces I know, I fell in love with the people in the front row. You know, I looked around, the faces I know, I fell in love.
So one of the reasons that I get so excited with making these videos is that there was things that I didn't understand when I was growing up that drove me insane. And particularly, maybe you felt this way, there was certain human behavior that I'd see, both in others, I see other people acting certain ways, but also in myself, like these kind of impulses that I would have that I really just didn't understand. It would drive me crazy, and I would think about it and think about it and think about it. I'd be like, why is this happening? Why is it like this? And I just couldn't understand it. I feel like human beings, we didn't come with an owner's manual. So what I want to show you here is a little bit of the human being or human brain owner's manual so you can start to see what's going on. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is quickly summarize 2 concepts so that we can build upon them throughout the video. And by the way, both these concepts are actually from the Grand Canyon videos that I shot, so you might even want to look those up. The first one is this idea that we have something called a winner effect, where when we feel like we're accepted, all of a sudden our brain just switches on. And we have access to all of our faculties. And suddenly we're more charismatic, we're more talkative, we feel better, we're funnier, everything just goes amazing when we feel like we're being socially validated. You ever feel socially validated and you just felt super duper confident? You kind of switched on. Maybe then you felt rejected or shy and you couldn't think straight. There's a mechanism in our mind, you might call it being in state or the winner effect, where when we feel like we're validated, we just do amazing, okay? And people sense this from us because when our behavior changes, our body language changes, our voice changes, our eye contact changes, the way that we express ourselves changes, everything changes. And then when people see that change in us, they view us as higher status, and then they want to kind of get to know us and be friends with us, maybe to have children with us, or to marry us, or to date us. They feel like they want to do business with us. They feel like they want to hang out with us. So when you feel validated, when you feel like you have social approval, that winner effect kicks in, your behavior changes, you become amazing, and then people see that behavior and they want to get around you, okay? We call that the winner effect. And one thing that we teach a lot, we taught this in the Grand Canyon videos, is that you want to shift it to where you're internally validated and you can generate your own winner effect. You're not reliant on other people approving of you to feel it because your inner state is strong. You have inner control over that. So we talked about that in the Grand Canyon video. Now, funny enough, the other Grand Canyon video that we talked about, we called it Your Belief System is Brain Plus Lane. So hopefully what I'm doing here, if I'm smart, is I'm putting this up in one of the corners and you're seeing that to be reminded of it. And what I said in that video, that your belief system is brain plus lane, is that as much as you think that you cultivate your own belief system, you really don't. You think that you're cultivating your belief system, like, I choose to believe this, or the other thing you probably think is, I am objective. I clearly see the world how it is and I am right. And what I suggest in that video is that our perception is very, very selective. And what our minds do is our brain almost has this auto detection mechanism. The brain kind of auto detects where we're at. And what our brain does, first of all, is it says, do we have, like we as in you and your brain, do we have enough critical thinking and emotional control? And do we have the bandwidth mentally to do something really powerful and big, or maybe something kind of small and for immediate gratification, right? Our brain is detecting this. Likewise, our brain is saying, do we have a lane for this? Like our brain is always looking for a lane where we could fit in. Look, you want to understand this simply? Here's the simple way to understand it. Look around you right now. Look at where we are here in Chicago. All these buildings, the cars, the restaurants, the water. Why is it that somehow, some way, in our capitalist society, there's always somebody to fill a gap? Like whatever it is that we need, we fill a gap. The reason why that we fill that gap, very simply, is because our brain is always looking for lanes. Like where can we get some value here, right? It's almost like plants kind of looking for places to grow the roots in the soil. We're always looking for lanes that we can actually excel. So, you know, say that you're sitting here and you're like, wait a minute, this area of Chicago needs a certain type of restaurant or a certain type of cleaning or a certain type of building. All of a sudden your brain, it just switches on. It says, wait a minute, we can excel in that. We as in you and your brain. And what happens is that it sees a lane there and then it starts riding that lane. So again, just in summary, those 2 videos from the Grand Canyon, if you follow my stuff, might be a little bit annoying for you for me to repeat it, but some people here are new. If you're new, or if you watch my stuff, you just want me to re-summarize it, what you have is first Grand Canyon video, the winner effect. When you feel good, you get acceptance. It changes your subcommunication, changes your behavior, eye contact, body language, vocal tone, all that stuff. Then because your behavior changed, everybody loves you. And then we also have the lane, which your brain is detecting. Your brain says, how smart are we? What lanes do we see here? And your brain is detecting that, and then it's deciding what to do. So that's a quick summary here, okay? A quick summary of psychology, and it's other people's psychology and your psychology. So what your brain is doing, let's keep going a little bit further. What your brain is doing, whether you believe this or not, it's kind of crazy to think about, is that it's actually feeding you beliefs. Now you're thinking, I understand reality objectively. I am so smart. If only those other dumb people could see things how I do, the world would be perfect, right? Wouldn't the world be perfect if everybody could see the world how you do? Because you're smart, you're so objective, you're so intelligent, you get it. And all those other people don't get it, not like you, who's special. Of course, everybody thinks they're on the side of God, or almost everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks that they get it. Everybody thinks that they're the smart one. Everybody thinks that, right? But in truth, your brain is actually doing things without your knowledge to feed you your perception. And you think of yourself as like, I am a human being, this autonomous entity that makes its own decision and charts my own course, right? You don't realize there's things that are going on inside your brain that are impacting what you're seeing, how you're perceiving the world, and it's impacting your decision making to a huge degree, and you have no idea what's going on here. So I'm going to begin to show you some of this process and see how you're being impacted so that you're not just a puppet. You can cut the strings and you can reattach the strings where you want to and start to get in control of yourself, okay? So the first thing to understand, I've talked about this in many videos, we have reticular activation system, RAS. Look that up. It's your selective focus, right? If you look at this environment, we're sitting here in Chicago, maybe you're noticing the buildings, maybe you're noticing the skies, maybe you're noticing the water, maybe you're noticing the people. RAS is the craziest thing. Like, I'll do these trainings and say there's 15 people to training, and I'll say, how about everybody here gives feedback to this one person where they could do better? You would be blown away by this. Each and every single one of the 15 people will have different feedback and different angles they focus on. Some people will think the person that they're giving good feedback to is, you know, doing poorly, and like helpful feedback, they think they're doing poorly. Other people think they're doing well, and it's really crazy too, because this is the craziest thing you've ever seen. If we do a training together, and I ask everybody to give you feedback, each person will give you feedback about yourself from how they see the world, and it's gonna be so different, but by the end of it, when everybody gives you the feedback, you're gonna have a full picture of yourself. I call that 360 feedback. It's amazing. Why does that happen? Why does everybody have a little bit of a different RAS? Why does everybody see the world a little bit differently? Well, I explained this in a video that I did in the Grand Canyon. I'll kind of list it here and I'll list it below. And what I said was that your belief system is brain plus lane. Okay, your belief system is brain plus lane. Try to follow me here, okay? If you're having trouble, just keep rolling with me. You just give me your faith for a minute and we will deliver you to the promised land, okay? I want to show you something here so powerful. So what's happening is that your brain is actually auto-detecting who you are as a person. And your brain is asking a couple different questions. I explained this in the Grand Canyon video. It's saying, do we have, like we as in you and your brain, do we have emotional balance? Do we have really high order levels of thinking? Do we have enough nutrients in ourselves to even be able to process at a high bandwidth? Can we think in terms of complexity? And if we can't, then perhaps we think in terms of simplicity. You see this? And so your brain is actually detecting how much brain power you have. Like, your brain knows how much brain power you have. That's why, by the way, anything that you do to hurt your brain, like taking drugs or hurting your brain, is actually going to cause you to have delusions. So don't do it, because your brain's going to detect, hey, we got no firepower here. No buenos, we got no firepower, just got to take a short-term solution. Don't do that. Nourish your brain. Now, the other thing that your brain's doing, aside from auto-detecting how much power that you have and then deciding what opinion to have based on how much power you have, which then determines the nuances and complexities of your opinions, but then the second thing it's doing is looking for lanes. It's saying, where do we have a lane here? Where's the lane? How can we succeed, right? If we look at Chicago here, you know, if you're looking at it, your brain is saying, what kind of restaurants would we maybe need? Is there maybe are we missing an Italian restaurant? Are we missing a Mexican restaurant? Are we missing a certain type of building? Oh, I could imagine a good building being there. I could imagine a certain type of engineering being good there, right? We look at our complicated society. It seems like anything that society would need, at some point there's some human being that comes in and kind of just makes it happen. Isn't that crazy? Pretty weird how that happens, right? Like, whatever it is that you need, the human brain is so resourceful that what it does is it's like, wait a sec, we need Italian food, and then it just starts thinking about Italian food. It detects how much brain power you have to see what you could contribute to creating Italian food, and then your RAS just starts looping on Italian food, and then you start thinking, Italian food's the best, I like Italian food. It does that, right? It's like people in the Democrat Party, they think that being a Democrat's the best. The people in the Republican Party, they think being a Republican's the best, and both of them are so sure the other is wrong. That's how it always is, right? Even as you're hearing that, you're like, yeah, but mine's really right, the other's wrong, right? I know you're thinking that. That's completely fine that you are, don't worry about it. It's just your brain doing its thing. Look, even out here as we look around, right? You see different people. There's one person there not wearing a mask, another person wearing a mask. Some people value freedom more, some people value safety more. That's just how it goes. There's always gonna be different people, and each side is gonna believe the other is wrong. That's just how it is. So that's the first thing to understand, is like, what you think you are is not what you think. There's forces that are influencing your RAS, they're influencing your subjective perception, and you're not aware of these. So what we're gonna try to do here is I'm gonna show you how to become aware of these. Now let's circle back, right? Because we went from starting the video about something really practical. I'm like, I'm gonna show you how to party hard, how to work hard, right? And then now all of a sudden I'm like, complex biological thing from the ginger beard guy, right? And it's like getting a little bit out there. So that's the basic meta level theory. But what I want to do is with that basic understanding, I want to show you why sometimes your brain's telling you, party, right? Sometimes your brain's doing that. Sometimes, because of the brain plus lane and so on and so forth, your brain's telling you, work hard, accomplish, make sure that you get things done. But lastly, and this is really sad, I'm gonna tell you something, if you look around here, there's a third type of thing that you might see. Sometimes your brain tells you, play small, take the path of least resistance, just hide, fit in, be at the center, comply, submit, and your brain could be telling you that too. And it's telling you that because again, the brain plus lane mechanism, it's like, what are the opportunities here? I don't see any opportunities. How much brain power do I have? I don't think I have enough brain power. Again, look up the Grand Canyon video. And then it makes you play small. So what we're gonna look at, if we wanna understand why, sometimes you're just in straight up party mode. And if we wanna understand why, sometimes you're in work mode. And frankly, if we wanna understand why sometimes you just hide, you take the path of least resistance and you walk around in a derp state, if we wanna understand those three things, and if we wanna have the best of all of them, which by the way, really the only first two are the best, the third one is crap in my opinion, but if we wanna have the best of both worlds, then in understanding this, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna look at the different mechanisms behind the party, 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 party. Why does that brain plus lane thing say, party? Why does it do that? We also wanna look at, why does your brain say, work, hustle, get it done? I'm gonna buy the jets, we're gonna get it done right now! Work your face off! Why does it say that? Or why do you just say, hey, just makes just happy life, happy wife, man. All good, happy life, happy wife. Come on in, bro.
That's right, brother.
Yeah.
You got to do it that way.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
And one sec, tell me one thing. What do you do for work?
I work for the railroad.
For the railroad?
Yes.
Excellent. And tell me, are you drunk right now?
Not yet.
Okay, a little bit drunk?
Trying to get there.
What's your goal today?
My goal is to get real fucked up.
How fucked up?
It's fucked. I want to jump off this bridge.
No, you don't. Yeah. How
I wanna
fucked
get
up?
Real fucked up.
How fucked up?
Real fucked
How
up.
fucked up?
Real
We're
fucked
gonna
up.
party!
Yeah!
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, bro. So you see, so the idea is, what is it that makes you want to party and have fun and share what makes you want to focus, right? What are the different parts of the brain that could be impacting somebody? Okay, that's why I shoot out here so we get these little examples. What could be part of the brains that's impacting somebody? What makes you just want to party? What makes you want to focus on work? What makes you want to hide? What's impacting you? And from this, again, the main goal is I want to show you how to shift in party mode, how to shift into focus work mode, frankly, how to shift out of playing small mode, because that just sucks. And from there, what I want to do is encourage you how to have the best of all of them, or at very least, if you're good and choose one of them, to choose it consciously rather than having this brain plus lane mechanism choose it for you and take away choice. I want to provide you with power, freedom, choice, knowledge, and a better life. You ready?
Check it out.
Let's go.
I got hip-hop taste buds. I wanna hear that bass when I make love. Wanna hear some lyrics when I wake up. Write rhymes to get me through a breakup. Bitch! Rough up whiskey straight, no chaser. Went through 50 breaks, no favor. Till I found this one and made the bass hook with the drum. My savior. I come back, tongue that sharp like a thumbtack. So tight, James is saying, give my foot back. One track, that residual noise, man, fuck that. We clean with the digital toys. I'm the Apache, you're failing to match me. Throw your hands in the air like you're hailing a taxi. I move to the funk floor, you're stepping out, you drunk, bro. This is for my
So conflicted when I shoot a video like this, because I know that if I just made a video about 5 funky tips about how to work hard and play hard, the video would be so much more popular. At least it would have the potential to be. And I'm gonna be looking at this under a fine-tooth comb, under a microscope. And I do that because look, that's what I like to do. And I figure if you watch this content, you like it when I do that. So you just gotta rock with me here. And in saying that, what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna look at this first through 4 main criteria. And I need you to memorize these 4 criteria. So you gotta use your mind here a little bit, but if you wanna have like the highest level understanding of this, I need you to remember these 4 things. You can make your own criteria later, but for now, go with these, okay? The first criteria that I want you to consider is whether or not you like to be connected to objective reality, or if you prefer to live in more of a fairy tale world that feels good. So, do you feel like you're in your power when you frankly, like, even if something's terrible, you just want to know? Or do you prefer to have things kind of more pleasant, right? It's like that question, the red pill or the blue pill. Do you want to live in like the nice Matrix, that computer program that's designed to satisfy your mind? You remember the Keanu Reeves movie, The Matrix? Or would you rather live in, was it Zion? I think it was Zion, right? This kind of underworld thing where you had to eat like this crappy soup and things were pretty bad. These robot sentinels were chasing you and you got to actually see how bad reality was. But the question is, which would you choose? The pleasant reality or the reality where you know the truth? What's more important to you? Feeling good or getting as close to the truth as your mind is able to get? That's number one. Where do you gravitate to? Okay, now number two is, do you gravitate towards reframes that make you feel good? Or do you gravitate towards just kind of trying to see things like it is and having more of a balanced perspective? Now, in saying that, everybody's gonna think they have a balanced perspective, but let's put it this way. Like, you know, I'm around 5'8", 5'9", not a super tall guy. So I could say to myself, you know what? I'm kind of at average height. There's pros and cons to that. Probably some benefits. Like for example, when I do a video series about socializing, I think people take it a bit more seriously than if I was 6'4", right? You know, some person's 6'4", they're like, you know what? You could do it too. You're like, well, how can I do it too? You're 6'4", right? Could still have a lot of amazing advice, don't get me wrong. But there's an advantage to me being not super tall, right? At the same time, not being super tall means I might not have as much immediate status, and so on and so forth. Not being super tall means that I probably try harder, and frankly, when I try harder, I'll probably go light years ahead of that person 6'4". But then again, being 6'4" is probably more likely to get you elected as the president or not. You know what I'm saying? It's just a balance view. Or, and here's the other one. I'm gonna shift let me shift my brain here, right? We talked about shifting. This is okay. You're hearing the music. It's like 5'8". That's the block. It's hard. Again, see how hard it is to shift space, okay? Like I'm in that more logical space right now. I kind of put myself in a more logical trance, right? It's like you've almost like a reframe. Again, look how hard this is. Like it's like, you see how hard this is? Like I'm in this logical mode right now, and it's hard for me to go in this mode. But like at a certain point, right? You see how tricky this is? It's hard to go from working all day to just having fun. But if you could just get yourself in that fun mode, and you're like 5'9", but right? Like if you're like 5'9", feeling fine, you know, like something like that. But you can see I'm not. Do you see how I'm not feeling it? Like I'm trying to put myself in that mode, like 5'9", 5'9", right? Like again, they're not even feeling it. Like I'm just sucking right now. You see my point, right? They're just like, get out of here. You see? And this is what happens when you go out, right? You try to go from that logical mode into a fun mode, and it just doesn't work. You guys know me. You know that I'm gonna get to that point in this video. I was maybe there a little earlier, right? But at a certain point, like when I'm out, when I want to shift in that mode, for me it's just a reframe. 5'9" is feeling fine. 5'9" is the bomb, right? And if you get me in that mode, and I'm having fun, like you see me out, okay? And you just give me a few minutes to ease into it, which I'll talk to you about how to do it next. You see me easing into it. You will literally see me, like by the time that I'm having fun socializing, like I'm probably doing like a leprechaun dance, and I'm literally like, this is me. Like I'm literally like, and everyone's just laughing, having fun, and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, I'm 5'9", right? Right? I'm loving it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look at that little wet carrot, right? And it just starts getting funny. It's all funny, it's hilarious, it's a reframe. Okay, everything is a reframe in that funny mode. So, again, I like to be able to have both. Maybe a little bit more serious at this exact moment, but at the same time, which one do you gravitate to naturally? Do you gravitate to being like, you know what? I just want a balanced point of view, or do you gravitate towards being a little bit silly? Okay, so the first one we said, do you want to be like in that objective reality as much as you can, or at least to seek out objective reality? Nobody has the objective reality, not even you, I know. Hardest part of this video, right? Do you want to be as close as you can to objective reality, or do you prefer to live in a world that feels good? Second one, do you prefer to kind of have a balanced view of things, or do you prefer a reframe? Now, the third one, and this is also very key, is do you like to pump your own state for your emotions, or do you like to accomplish something in order to feel good? Where do you feel better? Okay, so again, I'm in a more logical mode right now. You probably see me when I'm getting crazy, right? And it's a lot of fun when I get crazy. So in this mode right now, if I'm being honest with you, you wanna know, I'll be real with you, okay? You know it's gonna make me feel good? When we just crush this video and we change your life. Like, that's where my mind is at right now. The more that I can just nail this out to you and make you understand this, make it to where maybe you come to one of my events or you take my mentoring or you see me on the street, you say, Owen, that video that you did in the middle of Chicago, that changed my life forever. I could see the world differently for the rest of my life. Man, thank you. That's what I want right now. I gotta be honest. I'm in that mode where I want to accomplish that for me and for you so we can have some synergy. But another place that I could be in theory as I'm doing this video is changing from that mode of trying to accomplish something, and I could change more to just feeling the joy in my hands, okay? And you've seen me do demonstrations of this before, but what you're doing is you're going from a results-oriented trance to a process-oriented trance. Now, funny enough, there's even amazing spiritual texts written about this. There's the Bhagavad Gita. And what it says in the Bhagavad Gita is that you're not entitled to the fruits, you're only entitled to the action, okay? It's this super intense spiritual book from the East, very intense. I could talk about it, probably make some crazy video series about it. But there's some very, very powerful spiritual truth in there, which is that if we can enjoy the process, just the action more, the voice, hey, right? It's like I'm kind of teetering. Do you see me? Can you feel me? I'm trying to make it good, but I'm teetering. But when I can really just move fully into the self-state pump, not from the result, but from the process, if I can get in that flow where I'm making myself feel good, I can make it where I don't need validation from you. I'm validating myself. I don't need emotions from you. I'm getting emotions from myself. I don't need to accomplish a goal. I can enjoy the process that I'm doing. I can give myself joy, right? Very, very different from the society in which we live, which is get ahead, right? Sitting here in Chicago, you want to be in the penthouse, or do you want to be a little scrub on the street, happy because you're doing some dumb little dance? Is that good to you? Doing some dumb little dance? And weirdly, even look at this. Look what even just happened here. I keep going. We're just keep shooting. Okay, but literally, if you look at what happened here, literally, as soon as this light goes off, and then weirdly at the same time, the music starts pumping here, I weirdly feel like. It's like as soon as you fail, you start to have more fun. Do you see this? As soon as you fail, that's when the collar pops. Okay, you see that? It's like, I've got the video so perfect. I'm gonna get the right video. And then when the battery goes out, and then this guy pumps the music, maybe you can't even hear as much anymore, I just let go. It's like, it's gonna be okay, man. It's gonna be okay. I'm like literally ready to go out and crush it right now. Okay, so this is the thing, is like socially, when you're out, you want it to be so good, right? You want it to be perfect. But it's when you just let go, you just wear that backwards cap, you pop that collar, not really, right now I just look like a college frat boy even more than I do right now. But, you know, that's when you start having fun. So again, first one, do you want to live in a fairy tale world? Or are you trying to live in an objective world? Second one, do you want to have reframes? Or do you want to have it to where you have a balanced view? Third one, do you get emotions from accomplishing a process and getting to a goal? Or do you get your emotions from self-state pumping, making jokes, dancing, pumping your own state, right? There's guys down there that are throwing the ball around, things like that. Where are you getting the emotions from? Now, last one, and this is so key, is do you prefer short-term gratification or long-term gratification? And what I mean by that is, look, let's be real. Would you rather maybe eat that amazing tasting food? Or would you rather eat the clean food and be healthy and live longer? Would you rather ingest those toxins that get you all high and drunk and crunk? Or would you rather actually stay sober and eat healthy food and nourish your brain, nourish your body, and nourish your soul? You see this, okay? And this is also an indicator. Now, the reason why I'm starting off with these, and I'll just briefly touch on it, then we'll move somewhere else and I'll go deeper, is because ask yourself, really, what that brain and lane function is happening, like where that brain and lane functioning is happening in your head. And here's the main key to all of it, okay? And we're gonna get into this even more in a second. If your brain plus lane mechanism, that auto detection mechanism, if it kicks in and it says, you know what? I don't think that we have the brain power to raise a lot of children. I don't think that we have our careers together. I don't think that we have the emotional discipline to be with a long-term partner, right? Like if your brain can tell that you don't have the conflict resolution ability to be with a long-term partner, if your brain can tell that you may not have the resources to stick with making money to create a nest to raise children, your brain may kick in and say, you know what? Mate, right? Have fun now. And what it does is it will do whatever it takes to maintain what? That winner effect, to change your what? your subcommunication. We talked about this in the Grand Canyon video. Your brain says, wait a minute, we're not gonna get there the hard way, so we're gonna cut some corners here and get here the easy way. Even if we die young, we're gonna get there by cutting corners because we gotta get to that next generation, okay? And to be fair, by the way, sometimes your brain says, you know what? We just gotta hide and do the very minimum possible because we may not get through any of those options. So again, you get the idea here. We have the 4 main criteria, and going from here, we're gonna build upon this and show you how your brain auto-detects these different criteria and chooses one that it thinks will be the best for you.
Around places I know, I fell in love with the people in the front row. You know, I looked around places I know, I fell in love with the people in the front row.
People don't complain if suffers in here and you win the front row.
So in my view, this is one of the major challenges with getting good at socializing is that if you want to get good at it, that's very outcome oriented, and yet it's very much a Zen art, because to get good at it, you weirdly have to stop caring if you're good at it, right? Like, you have to get good and competitive to get to the outcome of not caring and having no outcome. It's infuriating. And when you get good at it, you get really good at it. And then that gives you a taste of it. And when you get a taste of it, you love it. And then you want it more, which then makes you more competitive and makes you want that outcome. And the whole thing just messes up your mind. So in understanding that, let's go back to what we said about the autopilot part of your mind is auto-detecting what's happening, the brain plus lane, and what's going on. So your brain, what it's doing is doing an audit. And basically, here's what your brain is thinking when it's looking at you, okay? It's going, does this person have the intelligence to have children that they would raise, to have a family, to actually be a good parent, and so on and so forth? It asks that. Does this person have the intelligence to have a partner? And if your brain detects that you don't have the intelligence to have a partner, and your brain, because you don't have conflict resolution, you don't know how to kind of deal with little issues that come up, you're unable to kind of navigate the complexities of a relationship, or maybe it even just detects that, frankly, you could just replicate yourself more. You could simply have more children just by living in the now. Your brain will often choose for you this kind of live in the moment, YOLO, right? You only live once kind of vibe. It just does that for you. Likewise, though, if your brain can detect that you could raise children and that you could build a nest and that you could have a partner, then oftentimes your brain will put you more into a conservative mind state and get it to where you want to stay and raise your children. Now, when we look at this, we have to understand something clearly. Your brain is looking for a lane, and it's looking at how intelligent you are, and it's making a decision, but it's also calculating not just the intelligence, like it may be a little bit more towards the lane aspect, like you could just do way better if you didn't have a long-term partner. It just, sometimes it may say that, but it could also be because frankly you're just too, you just don't have the mental bandwidth, the mental firepower to handle raising your own kids. So basically what your brain wants to do is it's deciding if you want to have hundreds of kids that you don't raise, or a smaller amount of kids that you raise, or last option, by the way, and this one really sucks, it's deciding if you want to just be super conservative, barely have any kids, and maybe just have one kid with someone who's unattractive. Now, why does it do this? This is so crazy. And how is this kind of auto-detecting function of your mind actually messing with everything in you? Like, why is it that this function of replication is actually messing with your sense of objective reality? It's messing with how you perceive the world. It's messing with your mood, and it's running you like a puppet. That's so crazy. And why is no one talking about this? This gets intense. So try to follow me here. I need you to roll with me here. We got to roll with this together if we want to understand it. So if your brain believes that either A, you don't have the mental bandwidth to handle raising kids, you're just not going to have that good job or good ability to stay focused, or maybe your brain believes, frankly, that you could just have more kids, like just a lot of kids, but not raise them, then what your brain will do is it will choose to put you super in the moment so that you're super attractive, and so you'll have like 100 kids. And what it does is it makes it where you just get straight delusional. So even if your life is crap, like your profession sucks, your career's going nowhere, nothing's happening for you, like you have no game plan whatsoever for after you're 40, like it's gonna go really bad, what'll happen is your brain will kick in and say, you know what, we may not survive past 40. Let that land, by the way. We may not make it past 40, but we're gonna rock out until we're 40 and then just die with tons of kids. And your brain literally says that, right? Think of like that rock and roll, right? Like live fast and die young, leave a good looking corpse, right? Look at that sentence. Live fast and die young and live a good looking corpse. The people that I know who are frankly the most successful in dating, the ones that I've seen, I gotta be honest with you, the ones that just crush it on like absurd levels where it's hard to even wrap your mind around, they kind of have that mindset. Live fast, die young, live a good-looking corpse. It's not that they're trying to die. In fact, they rationalize, don't they? So they're completely rationalizing, but in their minds, nothing's gonna happen. And what's happening is that their mind, the brain plus lane, is auto-detecting and saying, this person probably can't raise kids, this person probably can't handle a relationship, and frankly, this person could do better and replicate more. And it's a simple math equation. What your brain is deciding, because the DNA is insane, but the DNA is not insane. The DNA is almost more what you almost might call like sociopathic. I know that's hard to let land. Look at a nature documentary of like the jungle or the forest, or look at an ocean documentary. What's everything doing? One fish is eating another fish. Like the small fish is eating the energy from the plants, and then the bigger fish come and eat it, right? The food chain. Everything's just murdering each other and eating each other all the time. You know, animals are fighting it out for mating rights. And you know, any of these nature documentaries, like, it's beautiful seeing the cycle of life and seeing the food chain and whatnot, but it's insane. At a higher level, it's almost just like a bunch of cells just moving around, right? Like, if you weren't seeing Earth, like, you know, the animals and the fish and humans, if you weren't seeing it at like a surface level, and you're seeing it at like such a high up level, it would almost just look like a bunch of different chemicals kind of just moving around in an ooze. But then through our life experience, we experience as like our life, other people's life, and what other people are doing to each other. But at a higher level, it would just look like the laws of nature kind of functioning, almost like there's not even any free will. I'm trying to get you a little bit of free will, by the way. Hint, we'll get into videos about that in the future. But you see my point, right? So what's happening is, like, in evolution, if the DNA is like, well, go pump out 100 kids, and if 5 of them survive, that's better than if you raised 4 kids. Isn't that crazy? I'm not approving that, okay? By the way, anybody watching this a bit sensitive, I'm not saying that I want that. I don't want that. I raise my kids. I'm with my kids all the time. I can't stand it when people do that. That's the worst. Raise your kids. But what I'm saying is that there's a function of the mind that says, well, it does a math equation. Well, if I can have 100 kids by just party, I mate with everybody, and then 100 of them come out, 95 were to not make it, but 5 made it, that's better than if I raise 4 and, the 4 of them made it, right? But see, if your mind detects that you can raise your kids and that you can build a nest and handle a relationship, then your mind says, oh, maybe I'd rather raise 4 kids or raise 3 kids and raise them really well. And so your mind picks a mode. Now, by the way, now that's called, I would call that a short-term replicator versus a long-term replicator. The short-term one, just party! Long-term one, let's build the nest, let's have everything on point, let's be reasonable, let's be logical, right? So it depends which part of your brain is being activated. Now, the last one, by the way, and this is kind of messed up, is frankly somebody who believes that, this is pretty messed up, and this is going to show you a lot about society. This is going to get intense, what I'm going to say to you, okay? Have you ever noticed that it looks like a lot of people are kind of derping through life in a walking daze, and they're just trying to take the path of least resistance? Some people, sadly, rather than taking the short-term replication strategy or the long-term replication strategy, what they choose is almost like this, like, fly below the radar replication strategy. And so what they do is, because we come from a history of, human on human violence can be completely insane. We come from that history. What the brain does, it says, you know what? Don't make any waves. Don't piss anyone off. Don't make anybody angry. And then what your brain actually does is it holds you in a derp state. And here's what it does. It dramatically lowers your winner effect so that you can't think outside the box. This changes your subcommunication. You're not thinking much. You have zero swagger. You probably don't even have almost any ambition. And your only goal is just to comply. Your only goal is to take the path of least resistance. Your only goal is to follow the herd and do whatever the herd is doing. Now, I understand this can be shocking, but if you look at some of these horrific things that have happened throughout history, and you wonder, like, how could have all these people just been doing these horrible things because some crazy leader told them to? What the crazy psycho leader does is the crazy psycho leader makes it where the masses feel a path of least resistance and the ability to stay in the herd if they just exert a bit of pressure on them, and everybody submits. And by the way, we are seeing that today, right now, here in Chicago, everywhere we look in our society, people are putting out a lot of really bad information and just making it the path of least resistance to abide by it, and people are doing it, and they're even like wearing certain garments and things like that just to show, I'm in the herd, I'm not bothering anybody, I'm complying, I take the path of least resistance. And like, so sometimes you're just to show, short-term replication, right? Sometimes maybe you wear a suit, sharp, and you want to show long-term replication. And sometimes you dress kind of just like, kind of derpy. Like, I mean, this is a bit judgmental, but like in today's society, it's kind of like the oversized khakis, the Aldo shoes, like maybe like in today's society, and this will change because I'll get why it'll change in a minute. Maybe even like a white tight neck shirt, like under like a dress shirt, things like that. And it's very generic, showing that you fit in. Now, by the way, funny side notes about style. The short-term replicators that are like super fly, later they imitate the nerds, because the implication behind that is I'm so fly, I can imitate a nerd and make it fly. It's a form of what's called peacocking, where you show off that you can wear something that wouldn't be cool, right? That's why grandpa shoes, you know, in 2019 became super trendy, right? You could wear grandpa shoes and still be fly. So you imitate, you're actually imitating like a hobo chic is another example, right? Like hobo chic, you're imitating a nerd or someone conservative, and you're so fly, and then you spin it and make it fly, right? Like, you know, grandpa shirt, like stuff like that. You kind of make it fly, okay? Love it or hate it. So you see my point here, right? So again, we have the three cases here where basically what happened, you have the short-term mater who believes like, live fast, die young, leave a good-looking corpse, party, no logical answers, no logical answers at all. Someone asks you a question, you say a joke back. You don't need to get anywhere to have fun. Why are you fun? Because you the bomb. Why the bomb? Because you the bomb. Why the bomb? Because the bomb bomb. Why the bomb bomb? Because the bomb bomb bomb. The bomb 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 bomb. The bomb bomb bomb. What do you mean you're the bomb bomb? What do you mean you're the bomb bomb bomb? I said I'm the bomb bomb bomb. But you're just fine. I'm fine, not fine. Right? You're going bold. Right? Makes me more attainable, right? It's all reframes. It's all reframes. Isn't what you're doing going to lead to you not having a future life? There is no time. There's only the present moment. We're all just evolved monkeys spitting on this earth, man. Nothing matters. Now let's go home, right? It's all just complete reframes. It's disconnected from reality, living in a fairy tale world. Total reframes, like the bomb. Why? Because the bomb bomb. Why the bomb bomb? Because the bomb bomb bomb. And then it's basically, it's just ignoring reality, throwing caution to the wind, and you're just state pumping yourself all day long. It's great, isn't it? And you live for the short moment, right? A lot of people in this mode, they don't use protection and intimacy. It's very sad. Many of them use drugs and alcohol because anything to pump their state. And for them, it's like anything to keep their state, anything to keep their state, anything to keep their state. Sacrifice it all to pump your state. It's everything to them is their state. Someone in a long-term replication strategy, forget the now, organize things. You got to have a nest. Don't mess up the nest. That's the mode you're in when you're hustling, right? And then from there, the final one is all that you're doing is you're just hiding, because you believe that if you break through the surface a bit, you could get killed. And so what you do is you stay low, and maybe you hope that one of those short-term replicators, or even one of those long-term replicators, maybe they meet someone, and you know they meet someone, and in their youth they have one kid with them. Maybe they got a couple kids, and then maybe after they had a few kids, then you come in and kind of adopt the kids, and then maybe you can get one of your own kids in there. And what your hope is, in evolutionarily, is maybe in the future, the genes that you have will be more needed, right? Because what happens, the environment's always changing, right? Environment's always changing. And with the environment always changing, then what can happen is that those genes that you have that are maybe not high value could become high value. You know, maybe we go back to living in forests, and the canopy makes it where you need to be short to run and capture things, and you get the value. So believe this or not, what's actually happening is the person's DNA is saying, hide, hide. Take the path of least resistance. Hide, 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 hide. Fit in. Be at the center. And it's doing this because it's trying to just maybe mate with just one person. Maybe someone who's already mated with a few other people. You add more value by adopting them or something. You get just one out. Maybe someone not even very attractive. And then maybe that kid makes it to the next generation. And your DNA has time. Maybe it's going to wait 1,000 generations until eventually that winner effect kicks in, because all of a sudden, and I said this in the Grand Canyon video, all of a sudden you start getting approval because some unique combination of genes that you have gets you approval, and then poof, you go out and you replicate like crazy. And these three things, the short-term replicator, the long-term replicator, and the under-the-radar replicator, which takes the path of least resistance, each of these modes affects your psychology. The short-term replicator is just always in the flow, which is great, feels happy, but can mess up the rest of their lives. Long-term replicator lives a long life, but is kind of unhappy, always logical. And the person under the radar is a derper, lives a very inauthentic life. It's sad, just such a conformist, and oftentimes winds up being manipulated by psychos to do horrible things just because they just put a bit of pressure on them. They take the path of least resistance. So these are the three different strategies that we can see in the brain plus lane equation. Your brain auto-detects which one is right for you, and then pulls around your perception, your emotions, your decisions, your identity, that thing that you thought you chose, is being chosen for you by your mind as you're being pulled around like a puppet. So next up, what we gotta do is we gotta understand this even deeper and go snip, snip.
People don't complain, it suffers in here. And you win the front row, or covered in beer. And club bonus don't say the place is wrecked, it's your fault. If the roof is on fire, it's an electrical fault. Man, I bet you will bolt when I bring it live. Like Friday night, 40 in my hoodie, I can hard eye. Get live on the brakes, on pace one. Lads, if you're heading to the bar, grab your mates one. Ladies, come chill, come rock with me, honey. I got like $500,000 in Monopoly money. There's no stopping me, honey, so you can take my hand, we can lay on the beach and count.
Okay, so I've got to get this clear in your head that the brain is actually running you. These aren't decisions that you're making. Your mind is auto-detecting your environment and auto-detecting how much mental firepower you have. And frankly, you might have just made bad dietary decisions or ingested certain party supplies that mess you up. You don't even know what it's done. Or maybe you're carrying trauma energy. Maybe you just didn't get the right education. You don't know that. And then combined with your mind just auto-detecting these different lanes, and now your mind is deceiving you and pulling you around like a puppet, impacting your perception of reality, and you don't even know what's going on. Okay, so part of personal growth is you being at your potential. I want you to be at your potential. If you choose to be in non-stop party mode for the rest of your life, yo, I'm cool with that. I have no problem with that. If you choose to just be non-stop work, I'm fine with that too, if you chose it. If you want to be one of those people who just takes the path of least resistance and just hides, I'm also okay with that. I just want to know that you chose it consciously. That's all that I ask. But ideally, we want to talk about how to get you to the best of all worlds, okay? So let's further characterize this short-term replicator, long-term replicator, and kind of undercover replicator, this kind of path of least resistance person, and see what it is that kind of gets them in their winner effect. So basically what happens is that your mind will only allow you to access that ultimate confidence. We call it the winner effect. When you're ultimately confident, we talked about this in many videos, your mind will only allow you to access your full powers when it feels like you're kind of in the right spot mentally and in your environment, okay? And your mind is like, okay, can we let this person access the winner effect? Can we let them? I've talked about this in other videos, the Grand Canyon video, please go and review it. Basically, when you get a lot of acceptance, or when you feel like you're kind of doing the right things, maybe you feel like you have the right image, then your winner effect kind of kicks in, and you have all these things to say, and you have way too much fun, and you're so confident. Your eye contact, your voice, your vocal tonality, projection, body language, your personal boundaries that you have, the vibe that you put out, the decision to self-amuse and not reaction seek, all that kicks in when your winner effect kicks in. You're able to think laterally and trust in your thinking and be self-referencing for your own entertainment. So this winner effect will kick in when your mind is like, okay, this person, we have met our criteria. So what is this criteria? Like I said, for the short-term replicator, the criteria is just party, 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 right? It's all like, I want you to get used to walking down the street and recognizing this person's a short-term replicator, this person's a long-term replicator, and this person is like an undercover path of least resistance replicator. I want you to be able to walk down the street and see it immediately. You should be able to see some people that have a lot of swagger, but you can tell are totally delusional, okay? Just really, really delusional. You've got to be able to tell that. People that are really funny, people that are very joyous, but people that are completely delusional. I want you to be able to recognize that. Like when you're walking down the street, look, pay attention. Then what I want you to do is I want you to walk down the street and see the long-term replicators, the people that are more formal. They're looking more closely to see, is what I'm doing creating an outcome? I won't feel good until I get the outcome I want. I want you to see that. And likewise, I want you to see somebody who is just trying to hide from everybody, take the path of least resistance, basically hide inside the herd, and their main goal is to just keep a low profile, not to have too much original thinking, not to bother anybody, not to make waves. Their only goal is basically just path least resistance, avoid any kind of conflict, stay safe, with the hope that they can maybe mate with like one person, go to the next generation, and maybe when the environment changes, then they'll replicate a lot more, okay? And that's how the system in effect works. I probably didn't nail it 100%. I'm not a scientist, but I've observed this over many, many years of watching different people. Now, the basic key here is that when you're in a long-term replicator mode, your brain doesn't let you access your winner effect until all your ducks are in a row. So what'll happen is, let's say that you're building a business or working on your career, working on school, you'll go out to a social environment, and like I said before, you'll literally feel yourself like, why can't I have fun? I feel like there's this thing back at work or this thing back in my business that I should be doing. This isn't really getting me anywhere. And you can't just buy into having fun. It actually blocks you from having fun. And the hilarity is, you may think that when you become a doctor or a lawyer or an entrepreneur, that somehow, some way, this is gonna help your social life or help you meet that special someone. And it's really not in the way that you think. Because what happens is that you go out to that party environment and someone who's in that short-term replication mode, they're having way more fun than you. And here's the difference. When you speak, you always have this outcome. You're always trying to move things in a certain direction. But that short-term replicator, when they speak, maybe someone says something to them and they hit back with a joke. They don't even respond logically to what's being said to them. And a lot of what's out of their mouth is just them celebrating life. It's like this constant like movement in the body and making little jokes and dancing around. Like a short-term replicator, you can see a video of them squeezing a lemon and they get so much joy from squeezing a lemon. Like you can see them almost like picking up a lemon in slow motion and just looking at it. And they're so happy just looking at this ridiculous little lemon. It's the funniest thing you've ever seen. Like, you could just see them kind of just like dancing for a minute, and they're getting more joy than the long-term replicator could get if that person made millions of dollars. It is so funny when you watch the difference of this, right? Like, the long-term replicator has the belief that when they finally get their ducks in a row, they're finally gonna be happy. But they're miserable. Their whole life, they're in that mode. They're only happy when everything's perfect. They feel like the nest for their offspring is built. The short-term replicator, they believe, and here's their mistake, they believe that if they just stay in the zone, that everything will be fine, right? They're like, there is no time. Just stay creative. Just stay in that flow, right? And they joke around. If you talk about anything logical, they look at you like you're dumb. Their mind can't even resonate with anything that would move them forward. So they crush it socially. Everybody wants to be their friend. Everybody wants to be their special someone in their life or romantic partner. Everybody wants to have that wild night of adventure with them right then and there. Everybody wants it, or almost everybody. They crush it. But anything that you do to talk about them about long-term success, you'll actually see them, it violates their frame of reality of what they can allow in. They can't see that. And the reason why is because for the short-term mater, everything is about preserving their state, about staying in a fairy tale world, about reframing to feel awesome, ignoring reality, self-state pumping, and short-term gratification, even if it means that it'll hurt you later. But if it makes you in a party mode now, they want to do it. Crazy how this works, right? Later, when everything falls apart, as long as they replicate a bunch of times, what does it matter? The DNA is running their mind like a puppet. But likewise, the problem with the person who's a long-term replicator is that they think that there's this happiness at the end of the tunnel, and they're always trying to get their ducks in a row. They think that people are gonna appreciate this and everyone's gonna wanna be their friend. And frankly, they wind up just getting a lot of people that are using them, people that are taking advantage of them, people that just want them for this thing that they've built. It's transactional. They've lost the joy of life. Then take the major thing. Here's the worst one, okay? If the short-term replicator is able to access their winner effect, the full breadth of their personality, which extends in their sub-communication and their confidence and power, right? If the short-term replicator is able to access that when they're just delusional, having fun and celebrating life, the long-term replicator accesses it when their ducks are in a row. The person who's under the radar, that person who just wants to maybe replicate with one person, you know when they access it? When they feel like they're safe in the middle of the herd. And there's something so beautiful about that I love so much, and there's something that I hate about that, and I'm just gonna be real with you. Certain artists, they have incredible skill. They're like, say for an example, you have an underground artist that is so skilled, but they're not very well known, right? And sometimes it could be a filmmaker, it could be a musician, whatever it is, right? Oftentimes that really, really skilled person is skilled because they're really, really good at kind of talking to one single niche is what they're really, really great at. They're just so amazing. Like, if I want to make this video here, look at this video here. This isn't made for a general audience. If you like this video, I bet you that you think that you can send this video to all your friends, and if you get it, they're all gonna get it. But in truth, in my mind, much of the best art in the world is from one soul to another that deeply connects. And if you enjoy the way that I think, that's because I have niched this just for you. You don't just want the 5 funky tips of how to be, party, and work. You don't just want that. If you love this content, you love the full breakdown from somebody who studied social skills for maybe 320 days a year for 2 decades, and you want to go deep, from somebody who's seen it all, seasoned veterans, and you want to know everything they know, and you want the brain dump, and you want that elite level knowledge. You love that, right? So if I'm going to stay here and curate something for you, directly from me to you, and I'm not trying to appeal to everybody, I know that I'm going to lose some people, but I'm making this for you. That art is going to be something where it's hard to find something that you resonate with that deeply if you like it. But a lot of people won't like it. There's some people that probably, didn't make it this far in the video that didn't like it, right? To me, that's some of the most beautiful art. When it's made to really, really speak to someone specific and put all that energy there. Don't you love that? I love that so much. Like, it brings a tear to my eye when I think about that kind of work. And that's what the work I make, and I love it so much. The challenge is that then you have pop art. What is pop art? It can be amazing. An example would be Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan makes pop art. Quentin Tarantino actually makes pop art. It's really popular. It has broad appeal, but I don't think that they're creatively stifled at all. I think Quentin Tarantino and particularly Chris Nolan are making some of the best art ever made. So just because it happens to be adopted by the mainstream doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Not necessarily. But often it does. So certain singers, say, an example would be, say, Justin Timberlake. I love Justin Timberlake, I think he's great, but let's be honest. What guys like Justin Timberlake, or maybe U2, not so much U2, but to some extent U2, what they're good at is bringing people together from all groups. So Justin Timberlake, it might be more like, da, 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 oh, right? Or, U2 is like, it's a beautiful day, woo, right? It's like, it's not gonna necessarily speak to most people at a 10 out of 10 connection, but it will speak to everybody to some extent. And the beauty of pop art is that it brings everybody together, right? You might have 100,000 people waving a lighter, and in many ways there's nothing else like that. And you get to feel like you're part of a 100,000 person family, part of a big group, and that is such a beautiful experience. And I love that so much. When I see it, it brings a tear to my eye. But I'm gonna tell you the truth is that I feel there's a dark side to this. I'm gonna be real with you. Sometimes in my own seminars, I'll bring someone to the front and I'll get them to express themselves and they can't do it. And then what I do is I get the whole group doing it. So, maybe I get to go, hey, right? And he's like, hey, because he's stifled. His subcommunications aren't working. He's being limited by his mind. And finally, I'll get everybody to do it with him, and everyone starts yelling together. Maybe everyone's like, hey, 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 and you have 1,000 people going crazy in my room. And it's a rush like you wouldn't believe. It's a unity. But here's the problem. That's not what I'm here to teach you, because that same mechanism that makes you want to be part of the group is what psychos use to get people in that derp state. People that want to stay at the center of the herd, they get them to do horrific things and weaponize them. So understand very clearly here that desire to be in the herd, that nice person is not nice to me, because that nice person that goes with the bandwagon is easily manipulated by nut jobs. And oftentimes nut jobs, what they specialize in is applying a little bit of pressure on them and getting them to the point that they take the path of least resistance, and then they get thousands and thousands and thousands of people doing terrible things, taking the path of least resistance. So yes, when you were in that U2 concert, that Justin Timberlake concert, maybe you're at my seminar, everyone's going, yay, yay, and going crazy, that unity, amazing. And somebody who's that kind of low level, below the radar replicator, which is most people, they love that, they feel safe. When they get their winner effect, it's when they follow other people. Okay, so again, short-term replicator gets the winner effect by being an individual, standing out and feeling like the best, the bomb, amazing, the bomb, right? Long-term replicator gets it when the ducks are in a row, building the business, building career, whatever it is, right, moving towards outcome. The under-the-radar replicator gets it by hiding in the crowd. And that's most people. And until we can evolve out of that and we can teach that in grade school, we will have a society of groupthink. And basically what you have is it's almost like a giant football game, and people taking the masses and throwing them around and utilizing them for bizarre aims, sometimes good aims. Sometimes we use that to come together to do amazing things. Amazing. That there can be a lot of good in collectivism. But understand that there's also downsides, so you want to understand this. So really what you're seeing here is you're seeing a very extensive breakdown of these things. So we got into this with me saying, I'll teach you how to be hardworking and a partier, right? I'm trying to hook you in a little bit, teach something a little deeper. That's my style. So I try to start off a little hook. It's my style to go a little deeper, right? What I'm trying to show you is that if you're somebody who's just partying and having fun, and you're like, if I just get in more states, if I'm just more in state, if I'm more winning, tiger blood, winning, right? Like Charlie Sheen narcissism, right? Tiger blood. Like, why are you the best, Charlie, even though you just got fired? Tiger blood. What do you mean tiger blood, Charlie? How does that make sense? Winning, right? That's awesome, right? That works as far as socializing. That's amazing, right? Because you're accessing your winner effect by delusion. It's good. So if you're somebody who is in that short-term replicator mode, and you think that if you just get more and more in state that everything's going to solve itself, I've got news for you. It'll solve itself a lot in the short term. But your mind's dragging you around. Long term, you're gonna have a very bad life. Most of these like rock stars, you see them, they die of drug overdoses. These amazing stars drive drug overdoses, you know. People like to say the show Jackass, where they shoot each other out of cannonballs and staple their private parts to their leg and things like that, right? What happens with them is like many of them pass away young because they live in that mode. Anything to preserve their state. Anything to preserve their state. They'll die for their state. To be delusional, to stay there, because their brain is taking them for a ride, telling them to replicate, and that they'll replicate more if they just had that winner effect from being delusional. Like we said, right? They want to live in a fairy tale world, constant reframe, self-state pump, short-term gratification. So understand that, yes, it helps you short-term. Long-term, you're not going to get anywhere by getting more in state, okay? Let me take that back. Yes, it can help a lot. It is so beautiful. It's the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, right? It's good. But it's not going to get you exactly where you need. It's not the whole picture. It's half. That's why we said you want to learn both. Now, what if you're in that long-term replicator mode? What if you're in that mode? Well, if that's the case, you think that if you just like keep getting all your eggs in a row, keep doing that, get all those eggs in a row, what's going to happen? You're going to get the perfect romantic partner and run off into the sunset because they're going to appreciate your business. Yeah, right. What's going to happen when you get out to the club and my buddy that's in a short-term mode goes up and he's having fun, and you're like, oh, hello, oh, look at me, look at what I built for you, right? They're like, see you in 8 or 9 years. see you in a decade, but for now, I'm having some fun, okay? Particularly in today's society, okay? You're probably aware of that. So if you think that your social life is gonna get better by getting all your ducks in a row, building your business, making money, here's what it can do. Money and success can get it to where you can afford the jet to go to Miami during Art Basel and get a cool hotel during Art Basel to go to a dope party. Okay, it can get you the cool crib in the hills to throw a dope party. Money can get you logistics to where money used effectively can get you like, you know, the apartment above the club. It can get you, you know, maybe into a training that could help you with your social skills, things like that. So money's important. Money's also important for you. You should want to make that for you. So, you know, it's not just about socializing and getting social results. You got to do it for yourself too. But realize that while it can help with logistics or perhaps educational trainings, all it's doing is drawing users. It's drawing absolutely the wrong people, and it is pure transaction. They don't like you for you. So what you want to do is you want to have the best of both, right? You want to have it to where you know how to pump your own state. You know how to be a little bit delusional. You know how to have a night of feeling in a fairy tale, a night of reframing, a night of state pumping, not a night of too much short-term gratification. I think that could be unhealthy, but you see my point. But if you're somebody who's used to that, you've got to understand how to get out of that and focus on the bigger goals. Now, lastly, if you're somebody who's that under the radar person that just takes the beat, that just basically takes the path of least resistance, and please note this, like as you're speaking to people, note how a huge percentage of people are so much on taking the path of least resistance, their only conditioning as you talk to them when you walk down the street is, how do I just avoid conflict? How do I stay under the radar? How do I not get in an argument? Like the average person, if you even just put the slightest little bit of friction with them, it's just like, oh, okay, whatever. And then they zone out. They don't think because their winner effect is so suppressed. It's so sad. We have such genius in humanity. We really do. People talk about like, you know, which people are smarter than others. Sort of tell you that winner effect would unleash. I don't care. And big tip, by the way, and I'm feeling people won't fully grasp this for another couple hundred years. Big tip, okay? Spoiler alert for a couple hundred years from now. Even someone like me with light level autism who was a failing student and dumb as nails, if I crank and crank and crank that winner effect, change my hormones, change my brain neurochemistry, if I do that consistently for 20 years and build my confidence, what do you think is gonna happen? It unleashes genius. It unleashes an awareness and a discernment that the average person doesn't have. So it doesn't matter who's less smart or more smart at all. At all. What matters is that you actually build that person's confidence and show them how to think and show them how to use what they've got. Okay, just like someone scrawny can get pretty jacked. Maybe someone else with better genetics can get super duper 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 jacked. But the scrawny person can still get extremely jacked. Extremely jacked. So somebody who's dumb can get extremely smart. That person naturally more intelligent might just get that much more smart. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay? Fire me up here, okay? I see these stupid debates. It's so stupid. So, we're looking at society here, right? And I want to show you how to benefit yourself, but I also want you to understand what's happening. When you walk down the street, you see that person with swag, where's their head at? When you walk down the street, you see that person in that mode of, gotta get the ducks in a row, where's their head at? When you see that person just always trying to avoid the path of least resistance, like most people, where's their head at? And most important for you, because you gotta sweep your own front porch, where is your head at? What is it that has to happen for you to get into state, to access your winner effect? Is it about delusion and fun? Is it about getting things done? Or is it about hiding in the herd and then you get your winner effect to kick in? Which one is it? And how do you get it where you have the best of both worlds of short-term and long-term and can access either of them whenever the situation calls upon it?
Around, faces I know, I fell in love with the people in the front row. You know, I looked around, faces I know, I fell in love with the people in the front row. Put me here, and I'm all yours. Not for the money, and it's not for the applause.
So what I want to show you next is exactly how I would coach somebody in each of the three mentalities. Now, somebody in a short-term replicator mode, that is really, really difficult to connect with someone in that mode, because usually they've got to hit a point where they're ready to hear something new. Usually what will happen is they start to hit their later 20s or their 30s, and even though they had a lot of fun, a lot of partying, they start to realize, like, I kind of thought all the partying and the fun and the hooking up and all that, I thought that was going to lead me somewhere, and I realized it hasn't really led me anywhere as far as my career. For some people it does. Maybe they make a career in partying or being a rock star to some extent, and even then, frankly, quite sadly, many rock star friends that I know, they wind up turning into too much partying, and it winds up getting toxic. So for them, what I've got to do is I've got to show them, look, you're thinking that getting more and more in state, having more and more winner effects is going to get you to where you want to go, but you've got to re-anchor that to actually having some kind of long-term success. Now, if you're in that mode, look, if you're really good at that, you might want to find a way to capitalize on that in some kind of a career. I've seen people that have built $500,000 a year promoting businesses, for example, or musicians or entertainers. There's something very, very powerful about being able to access that state, that joy, being able to rock a crowd, being able to have so much fun, being able to, you could even be creating events. There's a lot of ways that you could do it. You could even be a great public speaker in doing this. There are ways to do this, but it does take a certain balancing out. And again, it's usually when the person hits a point where they sort of hit a wall with it that I can begin to show them, hey, this isn't everything, and I'm gentle about it, and I coach them through it. Now, for somebody who is a long-term replicator, what I've got to show them is I've got to say, look, I know that you were delusional, and I know that you thought that when you became a doctor that there was going to be all these people kind of waiting at the end of the line, and they were all going to run off in the sunset with you. I've got to first anchor them in the fact that, look, someone who's with you for a transaction, that's not healthy, that's not what you want. But second of all, are you really happy anyway? So I've got to show them how to access the state of the short-term replicator. In other words, frankly, I got to show them the four things that we talked about earlier, for the most part, except the one about instant gratification. I've got to show them how to instigate that little fairy tale world. I've got to show them how to reframe things. I've got to show them how to basically just have, like, see this guy, let me give an example. I don't know if you caught that, but this person would just zoom by, right? Again, it's that crazy mode where someone's brain is telling them, if you just drive crazy, who cares if you die? You'll look cool. Their brain is telling them this. There could be other reasons too, but like, people will take these huge risks because their brain's telling them, you're gonna replicate. They're being dragged around from it, okay? I had a friend who was a rapper that would do skydiving out of planes, and I promise you, he replicated quite well from doing rapping on the side of plane wings. Well, sadly, my good friend John James, look him up, beautiful man, beautiful guy. R.I.P. my homie, I miss you, John. John was sitting on the side of an airplane rapping, and I mean, his social life, I mean, it was pretty spot on, and the people he was with, it was pretty incredible, but it killed him, right? He died for that approach to life. I hope that he also died because he loved what he did. He had a passion for what he did. It's not all just replication. He had a real passion for it. But understand that, like, you can die for this, okay? And so, sorry, I got distracted there. Sad for me to think about that. But anyway, look, this is my point, is that people die over their mind pulling them around. But likewise, people can have it. You also look at John, at least his life was fun. People, you could, if you're some business person, you could live your whole life, thinking that there's this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that's never gonna come. You've trained yourself so much into all be happy when mode, you're never gonna enjoy life. So You know, it's crazy, right? So just circling back here. So basically what you have is like, if you're in that long-term replicator mode and you think that you're gonna be happy someday, the all be happy when mode, then what I'd suggest to you is you say to yourself, you know what? I've got to access that ability to make a fairy world, to reframe things, and to self-state pump. Everybody thinks that when you make a certain amount of money, that's when you're gonna be happy. I'm telling you, it is wrong, wrong, wrong. Happiness, for the most part, comes from just like look at this guy having fun here, right? What's up, man? You know, he's just having a fun time. Like, you know, it's honestly, it's about, like, yeah, it's about driving down the road, you know, in this like ridiculous cart with some music playing, looking around you and taking it in, and not being in that little cart and feeling the need to like get it all for Instagram or something like that. You can do that too, but don't overdo it. You know what I'm saying? It's in your physiology, it's in the movement. It's about taking so much action that you shut down the thinking mind. Let's say it's somebody who takes the path of least resistance, right? If you look here, that's the kind of mode that I'm talking about, right? They're in a derp state. Yeah, we're on this thing, but it would be easy to go behind. It's like this is all happening in perfect serendipity here, right? Something like path of least resistance. And the funny thing is that if I even showed the slightest little thing like, no, you'll see like, oh, and just like go around, right? It's a derp state, unable to see what's happening around. And so what I'll say to somebody like that ultimately is I'm gonna say, you know what? Step up. And the way that I coach that, ultimately, the way that I get someone to step up, you've seen me do this, and you never understood it till now. And you judged it, I bet, too. But I'm gonna show you what you judged was wrong. What I do when I can see that someone is taking the path of least resistance is I take that and I Aikido it back around on them. And I make them more uncomfortable by being at the center, more uncomfortable by taking the path of least resistance, more uncomfortable by hiding than it is to put themselves out of their comfort zone. You've seen me doing this. You see someone stuck, their winner effect is suppressed, their body language is suppressed, they can't handle things right. Look at here, you know, one of the camera goes out, we just jump in the next camera. It's easy. Life, it isn't as hard as it looks. And so what I do is that to help them to access that winner effect, I view it like a surgery. I view it like it needs to be fixed now. Because what happens is if I let them go, if I let them walk out of that room and I don't apply pressure, they're gonna go on to be complete derpers, not just walking in front of cameras. They're gonna go on to do any number of horrifying things and stupid things and living an authentic life. So what I do is I apply that pressure. And as I apply the pressure, I call them out. I call them out on it. I say, you've got genius in you. I say, unleash that genius. I call them out. And as I get them to unleash that genius, then what I do is they start to wake up. And what happens is that, again, their operating condition is take the path of least resistance. I make it harder to stay at the center than it is to wake up and to express themselves and to snap on their winner effect and to think laterally and to be free. I make it actually, because you've experienced this. You probably wanted to stay in your comfort zone. You wanted to follow your little dumb mainstream narrative, didn't you? I bet you're depressed about it now. Even with all the work that we do to help you to get out of it, you're probably still depressed that you don't get the mainstream narrative that you wanted, right? Because you wanted it fed to you. You wanted the fairy tale. You wanted the tooth fairy, Santa Claus, as an adult. And that's fine as a kid. I've got kids. Tooth fairy, Santa Claus for a kid, that's great. But you wanted that with an adult psychology? You wanted the tooth fairy and Santa Claus as an adult? What does that say about you? But you wanted it and you're bitter that you couldn't get it. And the fact that you need to look at the world in a more complex way to understand the way that it works, you can't get it in a simple way, that bothers you. But I'm telling you this, you'll get to a point where that mainstream narrative, that low-level narrative designed for derpers is gonna hurt you so bad that the pain is gonna be more extreme than just understanding how the world works and taking the time to understand it and implementing it and making the changes. So whether it's me who does it for you, and you'll see me doing this in many videos, shy little people, and I call them out. I go, what is this? You're playing at half character. You're playing a character. This sucks. Why are you doing this? Oh, right? And then suddenly they wake up, right? It looks like I'm being hard on them. I'm not being hard on them because I believe they can change. If you're telling me not to help them change, what does that mean about your opinion of people? That means that you think they can't change and they should just be left alone. I think they can change. You know why? Because people thought that I couldn't change, and I did. I did change. So because I saw that I can change, I believe that you can change, and I believe that everybody has the capacity to change, and that's why I will fight for that till the day I'm dead. Right? So You see what I'm getting at here? Your mind pulls at you, but there's a way to focus on this for everybody, right? With the long-term replicators, by the way, I used to always have this thing, I'd call it the 6 steps back in the day. I'd say, meet everybody. Minimize time between interactions with people and judge them all as 1,000 out of 10. Say, who would have the courage to do that? Maybe find something you'd fix about it or do better, but just view it as a fun thing because you had the courage to go and do it. Find something funny and keep interacting, right? What that would do, that gets you taking so much action it overwhelms the thinking mind, and you take so much action you lose your ego and you get joyful. That's what I was showing you to access. You've got to get good at accessing that party side of your mind by changing your physiology, by changing what you focus on. Stop looking for other people to validate you. Stop looking for other people to tell you that you should be having fun. Start self-amusing and enjoying the process of meeting people without an outcome. That's the key. This thing that you have, when you have a rough night socially, what's hitting you? You might be at the lowest level derper, and the slightest little bit of rejection for you is you wanting to stay in the path of least resistance. So it bothers you, and you're going to be a crybaby about it. And I understand, because I used to feel that way too. So I empathize, but I'm not going to just let you stay there either, because I want you to fix it. So part of it is that you just want the path of least resistance. Oh, someone didn't like me. Oh, wah. Crazy. Always respect someone. If they don't like you, leave. But engage with people. Share your gift. Spread light, spread joy, spread positivity to other people. Now, likewise, you might have it where it's all about outcome. Maybe that's what's holding you down, right? Because you're in that long-term replicator mode. Outcome, action, outcome, action, outcome. I feel happy when I get the outcome. Okay, good for you. But what's happening is now you're going about that and you're rigid. You're not fun. You're in a fun environment and you're not fun. It's not attractive. You know what it looks like? Do you want to know what it looks like to the person you're talking to? It looks like you think so low of yourself that you're just overworked and stressed and that you can't even cut loose. So you've got to get it to where you work hard, you play hard. Work hard, play hard. Funny enough, after all this, really that's the answer to everything. If you're already playing hard, you got to learn to work hard. And if you work hard, you got to learn to play hard. If you're somebody in the short-term replicator mode, you've got to learn to say to yourself, you know what? It's not just about getting more in state and having more winner effect. It's also about getting around people that can help teach me things, maybe getting mentors, getting other people that'll call me out, getting around people that are better than me, learning from them, initiating a skill, maybe even using that ability to party hard as part of your profession. That's fine too, or not, up to you. But you've got to do that. But likewise, if you're in that long-term replicator mode, you've got to get to the point where you know how to just get out there, meet everybody. Take so much action, you shut down the thinking mind, because your mind is shut down, that part of you that needs the outcome, and it gets you really present. Start pumping your own state. Start seeing things in a silly way. Start reframing things. When I'm out there in that mode socializing, I am in a fairy tale world. Same thing with many of my seminars. It depends on the vibe of the seminar. Here's a bit of a mix, right? I'm in a fairy tale world. I'm just cruising, sliding along the glass, right on top of the river, just sliding along it in this flow, in this fairy tale world that I'm living in, moving through the emotions, getting present with it, owning it, loving it, feeling the joy in each word, every syllable, every movement, every motion, everything that's happening, breathing in the magnificence of existence till I'm in tears, laughing and crying and passionate and wild. And I know how to access that because I went out for 20 years, right? I did the work and I built that side of myself. So I'd encourage you to learn processes to get out of your head, take so much action, you shut down the thinking mind, and do it in a way where you're not thinking so much about the outcome all the time. Yes, be aware if you're making mistakes and make corrections. Don't be dumb. But at the same time, maybe you need to be dumb. Maybe a little bit more dumbness would actually help you with this. You see my point here? And likewise, like I said, if you're somebody who's just taking the path of least resistance, hiding from life, you got to get some pressure on yourself. And you got to realize it's not as cool as you think. Ultimately, what it's about in life is living an authentic life, contributing your gift to the world. And you can't do that if you hide. You've got something in you that the world doesn't know about yet, and you've got to want to give that gift more than hiding at the center. I know that you can. So what we'll do right now is we're going to hop over there, we're going to wrap up and give our final thoughts on this aspect of partying hard, working hard, how to transition, how not to be a derper, and certain things that will give you the best of all aspects, like I said, so that you can utilize these tools anytime you want.
Punk leaders, punks you can't beat us. We bump and pump meters. We drunk, you chumps need us. So jump with us, down the front if it's your flavor, come get drunk with us. This life turned out nothing like I had planned. Why not? By now I should have had some land, some money in my hand, round about 50 grand, but I got nothing. I write rhymes on the bus, I keep suffering. Fuck the lines of the dust, you keep sniffing. That shit is for the pound coins, this shit is for my bros, my people in the front
You know, I
row.
looked around, faces I'd know. I fell in love with the people in the front row.
So we're at the end of a very, very long adventure that we had here together, and I gave everything I had to it. All my emotions, all my passion, all my love. I gave everything to this. I'm so proud of that. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, so much of my happiness is based on accomplishing a goal, and I get a high from that. But I've also had to teach myself how to get a high just from being in the present moment. So I hope in this video what you saw was on one level me just being locked in and going for the goal, giving you the best video that I can. But I hope that you saw another side of me getting attached to the emotion of the moment and pumping my state doing that, okay? This was very, very deliberate. Now, when I was a kid, I couldn't understand any of this stuff. I grew up with very little social understanding, and it bothered me. I honestly wondered if I'd ever be able to understand it all. And when you look at the cost of this, the fact that this isn't taught in schools, the fact that this isn't common knowledge, the cost is so high. In my case, what it cost me was me growing up in a dark cloud, not understanding myself or different ideas socially. What it cost my friend John his life to some extent. Okay, that's not all of it, but to some extent. It can cost other people their lives, shorten their lives, and it can cost people their happiness, and it can cause people to dim their light. The cost of this can be very, very high. And fundamentally what it comes down to is that there's this mechanism in the human mind that uses blind spots to run you. It's your RAS, your reticular activation system. Look it up. That's running you, and it's causing you to see the world in certain ways, and you just can't see what's going on, right? The person in the short-term replicator strategy, what they're doing is they're actually putting blind spots to anything that would lower their winner effect. You see that? They're putting blind spots deliberately. I think it's called a scotoma. Look it up. They're putting blind spots in to anything that would mess up their winner effect. They're deliberately blotting out anything that's not the feedback they want to stay in state. Because their mind has auto-detected if you block out anything that would mess up their winner effect, even though blocking those things out could get them killed or die young or have just a really bad life later in life with no career, it'll allow them to replicate now. Okay, so it's like a dandelion just shoots the spores everywhere in effect, right? The mind literally says the body will replicate more if we put beneficial blind spots everywhere, blocking out all negative feedback, which will then give them the acceptance that they want, pump their winner effect up, make them at their highest potential. I talked about this a lot in the Grand Canyon video. Go look that up. They're going to replicate more. Their sub-communication is going to be better, and they're going to do better, right? The brain does that. Hey, that's pretty cool. Imagine just walking around completely delusionally positive. Pretty cool, right? But it comes at a steep cost. It comes at the cost of you not understanding life. So the long-term replicator, what they do is their goal is no blind spots, right? They don't want beneficial blind spots. They want as few blind spots as possible. Everybody's a bit of a mix, by the way, but let's just say in theory, okay, for sake of example. So what happens is that the person who has the beneficial blind spots, the short-term replicator, their confidence is always up, but they can be very miscalibrated to life. The person whose blind spots are down, they're aware when someone doesn't like them. They're aware when they're getting negative feedback. They're aware when things aren't going well. And this is good. It allows them to adapt. It allows them to change their approach. It allows them to have what's called social calibration. Some of these people that are in the short-term replicator mode, they have bad social calibration. They're super confident, but they can weird people out. Somebody who's aware of everything, you can actually adapt your approach, change your social calibration. How good is that? But the problem is, as you get more and more bad social feedback, your state goes down. It kills your winner effect, right? So one person, they have blind spots that props up their winner effect. Short-term replicator. Long-term replicator, they have less blind spots, they have awareness, but then it can pump down their winner effect, so they're constantly at the mercy of having everything perfect. Do you ever feel like when someone's reacting well to you, that your mood is always going up, but the second that something bad happens, you see it a little too much, you're a little too aware of it, and then your mood goes down, and then it shuts you down? That's not good. Maybe you'd benefit from beneficial blind spots. Well, in truth, we talked about one type of person, beneficial blind spots, delusional confidence. Confidence never goes down. We talked about a person who has awareness of everything, no blind spots, but confidence goes down when things don't go well, motivates them to build an empire maybe, motivates them to get everything down, but they're always unhappy. State shoots down too easily, messes them up, not good. What's the third person? The third person is someone who's able to activate beneficial blind spots, or even frankly, let's even go deeper than that. You can activate beneficial blind spots when you're in party mode. You can work hard, play hard, and activate that and have fun, live in the fairy tale world, reframe, instant gratification, all that stuff, right? Self-save pump, you could do all that. You know another thing you could do? You could be aware, but simply ask yourself a basic question. What would the person with the beneficial blind spots feel if they had a bad reaction? And you realize they'd feel nothing, and they'd be happy. And then you can learn to control your own emotions and feel happy anyway while being aware of almost everything going on. And then you'd have the best of both worlds. Makes sense? Just gave you one of the major keys to life and getting to an elite level. Came to you so easy, didn't have to pay for it. Don't know if you'll let it land. A lot of things here that you may not let land, but if you rewatch this video enough times, it'll land and you'll get it, and your mind is gonna melt and you're gonna say, I can't believe I got to stop the internet. So this is what I want to see you accomplish. I want you to have the benefits of both worlds, the benefits of the beneficial blind spots, benefits of the awareness, and integrate them to where you can get to a point that you can either A, throw up those blind spots, go in the fairy tale world, or B, just be aware, but have such strong emotional control that you don't even need those blind spots. You're not relying on a crutch. Because ultimately, most short-term maters are relying on a crutch, a quick way to get there, and if you're really powerful, and you're someone who's very aware, what you can do is you can learn all the social calibration, but also all of the emotional control, state control, self-management of winner effect, and holding your frame even with a balanced view, even with as objective as possible view, even with knowing what's happening, you can still maintain it, and you can get so good at it that you can control your state even more so than someone who's delusionally confident. And when you can do that, you are so powerful, and that's what I want for you. I want you to be empowered. Look, there's so many different potholes that you can fall into in life, and there's so many different philosophies that are coming at you. You'll meet that YOLO person and they'll convince you to piss your life away with drugs and alcohol and stupid nonsense, short-term gratification, tell you it's about living life. Shut up. It's not. It's just the DNA running you to try to replicate. You're not even aware of your own thoughts, you're unconscious. So you'll hit that little philosophy, right? And you're like, should I do that? This person looks cool. They look like they're having fun. Maybe I should go do it. That's what, for me as a parent, I've got to try to let my children see, maybe, you know what, this person that seems really cool, they're not cool, they're delusional. But you might get pulled into that. Likewise, you get older and you start getting into business. Someone tells you to work your face off. I actually love people that tell you that. I'm fans of them. You can learn from them, but they tell you that they'll tell you you should never be happy unless you accomplish something. But in truth, when you're unhappy, it deactivates your winner effect and you're less likely to accomplish something. Don't love yourself until you've accomplished something. That's a good thing because they don't want you to be delusional. They're trying to help you avoid the pothole. They care. But what they don't realize is that if you're activating a derper effect because you feel bad about yourself, you don't trust yourself, that's not good either. That's why the frame is, I'm awesome right now, and I'm on my journey to become even more awesome. Life is a process. I'm engaged with that process. I feel good now. I have joy now. But I'm also on the journey to becoming even more awesome, to building out systems, building out skills, producing results, and crushing it. You can do both. You can do both. There's so many potholes and philosophies you'll be drawn into that can mess up your life. You've got to actually get an accurate view, and I've tried to give you the closest thing that I can get right here because this used to confuse me so much. I'll end with this. We're sitting here in front of the Trump Tower. There's police everywhere because they're afraid of different very intense things that can happen. In my view, I actually believe that most people in the world are good, well-intentioned people. I believe that. But what happens is that people, they don't fully understand each other and they don't fully understand themselves, and they can get in conflict and believe that the other group is bad. And we've seen a lot of that this year. We've seen that a lot of people think other people are bad and they lose being able to see other people as human beings and being inclusive and loving other human beings. And I know that some people are so sick and damaged that they are bad, but that is not most people. That is not most people. If anything, the bigger problem is that people follow the path of least resistance and are unable to see things in that balanced view. And so this is my great wish that I have, is both to help you at a practical level to understand human psychology and understand your psychology, not get dragged around. But I'd really like to see people start to understand each other and get out of their own heads and see where other people are coming from. And, you know, maybe you could read a little bit of the Sermon on the Mount in the Bible and learn to forgive each other, even if you feel like you've been done wrong, okay? And to me, that's what's gonna save the world. And there's also a lot of practical things to save yourself. You gotta make yourself strong first in many cases before you save the world. But if you can use these tools to make yourself stronger and you can be at your potential, imagine what you could do to help humanity and your fellow human beings to rise to challenges that are coming now, right? Imagine the force for good that you could be. Incredible, imagine that now. So we've given you some cool little social tips, talk some tips about how to work hard, play hard, that stuff, but There's other levels to this. There's a bigger game going on here, even bigger than what I'm saying here. So I love you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me the motivation to express this, to organize my thoughts. Thank you for drawing this out of me. Thank you for giving me this beautiful experience. Love you very much. And I'll be back with more very soon. Peace.
My savior, come back, tongue that sharp like a thumbtack. Soy tight, James is saying, give my foot back. One track, that residual noise, man. Fuck that, we clean with the digital toys. I'm the Apache, you're failing to match me. Throw your hands in the air like you're hailing a taxi. I move to the funk floor, you're stepping out, you drunk, bro. This is for my peeps and the freaks in the front
You know, I
row.
looked around, places I know. I fell in love with the people in